Ne var orada ki?
Herhangi birisi yazılı olarak bir mesaj iletirse oradan görebiliriz.
Tamam, kalsın.
Ya da karşı taraf söyleyeyim.
Tamam. Buyurun hocam.
Hello, everyone. As ORSAM Center for Middle Eastern Studies, we are hosting today in one of our online panels, online conferences about developments in the Middle East and especially in the Eastern Mediterranean. And there are, of course, many changes. And I want to welcome His Excellency Mr. Tahsin Ertuğruloğlu as the Foreign Minister of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Welcome, Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice having you. And I just want to set the brief outline as the the world is going through serious changes, and from the rise of East China or the coronavirus, and we know that the old world order, which is the Cold War order, kind of ended, but a new order still to come. So many changes from Arab Spring to economic struggle and civil wars in our region, and border controls. We just witnessed that Ethiopia kind of collapsed or dive into a civil war. So many changes around the world, and also we are sitting in the most maybe critical point of the world, which is the Middle East, and especially Anatolia, Middle East, Palestine, Eastern Mediterranean. All of these developments are connected, and of course we are glad to have a very knowledgeable statesman from the region to make sense of all these developments. So Your Excellency, let's start with the kind of a historical perspective, then we come to more geopolitical and current issues. How the Cyprus island overall was critical, let's say in the Roman time, in Alexander, or all these in the ancient time. If you could briefly, explain us, how Cyprus as an island played the role in history.
Yes, thank you very much. Obviously, we're living in a very strategic geographic area. In brief, whoever was the dominant power in this area invaded the island of Cyprus throughout history. Anybody that was a center of power dominated the island of Cyprus. The last to do so were the Ottomans. They conquered the island from the Venetians. Before the Venetians, there were the Lusignans. There were the city-states of the Roman times, of the Byzantium, and all of that. So what is undeniable is that this geography that we're sitting in is probably the most important, the most crucial geography around the world. It has too many stakeholders, even today, and maybe more so today. All big powers, all important international organizations, in addition to the nations who live in this geography, are all stakeholders. The United States, Russia, United Kingdom, European Union, Israel, Egypt. We're all stakeholders. So we as Turkish Cypriots suffering from discrimination all our lives. Sometimes some friends of ours make the mistake of classifying the Cyprus problem as a problem between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. Yes, of course, there is a problem between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots, but the Cyprus problem itself is a much bigger problem than being just between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. That problem is only a minute section of a much larger picture. Too many stakeholders. Yes. Anybody who has any interest, national interest, is a stakeholder in this geography. As I said, the Russians, the Americans, the British, the Israelis, obviously our motherland, Turkey, obviously the motherland of Greek Cypriots, Greece.
European Union, etc.
European Union as an international organization. The United Nations itself, the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, Israel, Egypt, Syria, Libya. This geography is the center of the world. And
yes,
everybody has an interest.
Your Excellency, we'll come to the geography and we'll discuss in more detail. It's not very much mentioned, but we know when the Islam spread, they quickly also reached Cyprus, and this part of the history before Venetians, is not very much known. If you can tell us about, how long they lived and what was the situation during the Umayyad and Abbasid eras, for example, or other times like Mamluks and others, how they treated Cyprus, how was their role?
Well,
we know because there are also Arab citizens in both sides of the island. Historically they were there, and it's also open to them.
As I said, not just them, the Persians were also here. Everybody was here. Obviously, the population on the island was mostly Islamic, and Islamic traditions are much more humane, much more encompassing, much more tolerant, obviously.
Yes.
The problems began after the population ratio on the island started to change in favor of the Orthodox Christians.
How was the role of crusaders, Your Excellency?
They also conquered the island of Cyprus.
They came to Ireland, yeah.
Of course, they conquered the island. Now, if the subject of the meeting we're having today is talking about the religious aspect of the Cyprus island from centuries ago to this day, is something else that will affect the way we will treat the Cyprus problem of today.
Yes, I mean, we don't want to stay in the history too long. I mean, during yes.
The point is, long as the island was under Islamic rule, the island was peaceful.
Yes, they were tolerated, and other religions were not persecuted. And I mean, Your Excellency, major powers, they couldn't avoid Cyprus, as you said. And it was critical for everybody, from Alexander to Roman, for Ottomans. And we know that, Ottomans, just briefly passing by as a note, and then come to the maybe more current and also maybe climate issue, environment, energy, etc. Just a note that when Ottomans, they spread the whole, I resemble it with, or I compare it with the conquest of Istanbul, which delayed because it's so critical. When Ottomans also reached all the way to Algeria, but the conquest of Cyprus also was delayed. But similarly, after when the Ottomans were exiting, or they became weaker, and Cyprus became critical for when British took over or controlled the island. They quickly, a couple of years later, they invaded Egypt. So it is like a air base or kind of a military base for big powers. So yes.
Today, you look at the Mediterranean. On one hand, you have Gibraltar, British domination. The other side, you have the Suez Canal, also the British conquering the area. So yes, that's what we mean when we say Cyprus is in a very geostrategic, geopolitical geography that's so important, and there are too many stakeholders, and everybody's interests are involved in this area. So everybody knows that when the Ottomans conquered the island from the Venetians, the Greek Orthodox population who was here under the Venetian rule, that was suffering under the Venetians, the Ottoman period saved them from persecution, and they flourished under the Ottoman rule to the point of change in population ratios. And when we come to this day, if you were to talk to a Greek Cypriot or a mainland Greek person, their idea of Cyprus is that it is a Hellenic island within which the Turkish Cypriots are not their equals, within which the Turkish Cypriots are supposedly subjects of a Greek island. This obviously has nothing to do with the reality of the island. The island of Cyprus has never been a Greek island. The Greek Cypriot Orthodox Church flourished under the Islamic Ottoman rule. So if anybody is to claim that the island was theirs, it should be the Ottomans, the Turks, because the island of Cyprus was under Ottoman rule for over 3 centuries. Whereas the island of Cyprus never was a Greek island. Anyway,
how this has changed, Mr.
All these
Minister?
took place in the past. The British played a role. The British still play a role in favor of the Greek Cypriots, punishing the Turkish Cypriot population. If you were to talk to a Turkish Cypriot, the reality is that Turkish Cypriots don't look at the Cyprus problem as a religious problem. To Turkish Cypriots, the Cyprus problem is not Muslim Turks versus Orthodox Greeks, but in terms of how the Greek Cypriots look at the Cyprus problem, it's a religious problem. And to them, the island of Cyprus must be rid of the Turkish Muslim factor, and the island of Cyprus must be purely a Greek Orthodox island, and the Turkish Cypriots to be subjects, merely subjects of a Greek island. So these are the historical, there's so much historical history behind the geography we are sitting in, behind the island we live in. But as I said, to us, the Cyprus problem is not a problem of Muslims versus Christians. To us, the problem of Cyprus is a national problem. Turks versus Greeks, Greeks supported by everybody else, and we only enjoying the support of our motherland, Turkey. In our audience, I believe there are Muslim brothers and sisters who may be listening and around the world or in the Middle East. Now, every one of those people the state of all of these people, they believe that there is a legitimate Republic of Cyprus in place. They believe that there is a legitimate government of that Republic of Cyprus in place. Their countries recognize a purely Greek Cypriot state as if it is the Republic of Cyprus.
And they don't recognize the presence
don't
or kind of a valid
They don't
citizenship.
recognize the Turkish Cypriots because they don't know the history of the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus. They have no idea. They don't know that the Republic of Cyprus that was established in 1960 was a partnership republic between Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots on the basis of political equality. We were the co-signatories of the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus. Without our signature, there wouldn't have been a Republic of Cyprus. The Republic of Cyprus that was established in 1960, the condition was that neither the Turkish Cypriots nor the Greek Cypriots on our own, excluding the other partner, would have the right to be the Republic of Cyprus. Yet, the Greek Cypriots, 3 years after the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus on the basis of political equality, destroyed that partnership by force of arms, kicked the Turkish Cypriot partner out of all the governmental and state machinery, dominated the Republic of Cyprus, turned it into a purely Greek Cypriot state, and contrary to the international agreements that created the Republic of Cyprus, and contrary to the very constitution of the Republic of Cyprus, they pretended as if they, on their own, without the Turkish Cypriot partner, are the Republic of Cyprus. And everybody recognized them as such.
Yeah, Mr. Minister, even before that, the Lausanne Treaty, it doesn't allow another design in these islands, which is where the Turkey's protective role comes to the island, because it says it is left to British, but any design after any different from Lausanne Treaty should be consulted by Turkey, or they should consult Turkey for this, and then Turkey, after the Enosis ideals that they want to make the Greek that make a genocide in the island, allow Turkey to intervene. So maybe many people, if you want to elaborate a little more, many people around the world don't understand why this problem came, or even Turkey had to intervene in the island. They don't understand why this happened. You mentioned a little bit that they want to unite, but after the Second World War, the island, which was under the British rule, then became independent, and Greeks and Turks, they signed the contract, in a way, social contract. Then the Greek part overlooked that, or doesn't want to recognize the presence of Turkish.
The reality is that when the Republic of Cyprus was established, the Greek Cypriots accepted the establishment of this partnership republic because they were forced to accept it. They didn't wish to enter into an equal partnership with the Turkish Cypriots, but they were forced to, with the idea of dissolving it at the earliest possible time. That is why immediately after establishment of the Republic of Cyprus, Greek Cypriots presented to the Turkish Cypriots 13-point constitutional amendments. These constitutional amendments all were aimed at undoing the political equality of the Turkish Cypriots. What were these items of political equality? I'll give you a few examples. The vice president was to be Turkish Cypriot, elected only by the Turkish Cypriots. the president was to be a Greek Cypriot, elected only by the Greek Cypriots. Yet, the vice president, a Turkish Cypriot, would have veto powers so that the president wouldn't be able to pass decisions on his own, signifying the political equality of the two partners. In the Council of Ministers, there were 10 ministers. 7 were Greek, 3 were Turkish. But there was a separate majority system, which meant at least 2 of the 3 Turkish Cypriot ministers would have to say yes for a decision to be passed, so that the Greek Cypriots couldn't carry a decision on the basis of 7-3 majority. The same separate majority system in the parliament. There were more Greek Cypriot MPs than Turkish Cypriot MPs, but more than half of the Turkish Cypriot MPs would have to say yes for a decision to pass in the parliament. So there was a system of separate, of absolute political equality between the two partners. And as I said at the beginning, the rule was that neither the Turkish Cypriots nor the Greek Cypriots on our own would have the right to say, we are the Republic of Cyprus. Greek Cypriots couldn't tolerate this political equality, so they resorted to arms, and on the eve of the 21st of December 1963, they attacked the Turkish Cypriot population on the island. And the Turkish Cypriots were forced into enclaves around the island that did not amount to more than 3% of the island's geography. And 11 years went by until 1974, when we were subjected to all sorts of atrocities, discrimination, mass murders, mass burials, mass graves, kidnappings, disappearances, all sorts of atrocities from 63 till 1974, 11 tragic years. And it would be interesting to our audience to know that during these 11 years, more like 10 years, there were UN so-called peacekeeping forces on the island of Cyprus that were sent here as of March 1964. You see why I am referring to these, because it's important for our audience to understand that when the Greek Cypriots say the Cyprus problem is a problem that begins in 1974 with a so-called Turkish invasion and continued occupation, the audience must be aware that there have been UN peacekeeping forces on the island since 1964, because the problem of Cyprus does not begin in 1974. It begins in 1963. And because of that, the problem begins in December 1963. In March 1964, UN Security Council sits and passes a decision, resolution to send UN troops to the island. So
the problem is older than Turkish intervention.
Of course, the Turkish intervention is not the beginning of the Cyprus problem. The Turkish intervention is because of the
outcome,
problem caused by the Greek Cypriots. And the legal basis for this intervention was the Treaty of Guarantee. The Treaty of Guarantee that came into being with the establishment of the Republic of Cyprus. 3 guarantor countries, Turkey, Greece, and the United Kingdom, each having the authority to intervene if the state of affairs created in 1960 was endangered, was changed, either jointly or unilaterally. And because of the July 1974 coup that was organized by the military junta in Athens against Archbishop Makarios on the Greek Cypriot side on the island, there was a coup d'etat, and the well-known Turkish murderer called Nikos Samson was installed as president, and he claimed that enosis had been achieved, enosis being union of the island of Cyprus with motherland Greece, they said. This is the Greek terminology, grand ideal. Because of this coup d'etat and the threat of turning the island into a Greek island, Turkey, as a guarantor power, used her rights under the Treaty of Guarantee and intervened militarily to prevent the island from being annexed by Greece and to prevent the annihilation, the total annihilation of the Turkish Cypriot population on the island.
I mean, in a way, in a cultural
Genocide.
or demographic genocide. Yeah.
Genocide.
They did not consult Turkey on this, but did they consult the UK on this occasion during the coup?
After
Was
the
British was happy about it or not?
After the coup, Turkey consulted the United Kingdom and said, let's intervene together. Greece had already violated her guarantorship by staging the coup d'etat. So it was Turkey and United Kingdom left. And the late Turkish Prime Minister Bülent Ecevit traveled to London and approached the British for joint action together as guarantors against the coup. And the United Kingdom refused. So Turkey intervened on its own, as it was her right under the Treaty of Guarantee, 5 days after the coup. The coup took place on the 15th of July. Turkish intervention took place on the 20th of July. So the point is, anybody who recognizes the Greek Cypriot side as if it is the Republic of Cyprus, and this includes the whole world except Turkey. The only country in the world that does not recognize the Greek Cypriots as if it is the Republic of Cyprus is motherland Turkey. Now, the international community must see where it has gone wrong. If you recognize the Greek Cypriots as if there is a legitimate Republic of Cyprus with its government, then what you are basically saying is what the Greek Cypriots are saying, which is the Cyprus problem begins in 1974. It's a problem of Turkish occupation and Turkish invasion and continued occupation. Recognition of the Greek Cypriots as the Republic of Cyprus is nothing other than the problem itself. This is the Cyprus problem. The Greek
Yes, and the UN recognizes this, that resolved problem. I mean, this is unresolved conflict. This is so far under the UN.
The UN itself is responsible for this unresolved.
Yes, but still, you know, they did not say the file is closed. I mean, there is debate under the UN for the Cyprus file, but the EU and the Greek part is pretending that it's over. It's not over.
It's not over. I'll get back to that. But the United Nations Security Council didn't come up with a resolution that said Greek Cypriots are the Republic of Cyprus. What they did in March 1964 is pass a resolution, UN Security Council Resolution 186, dated 4th of March 1964. With that resolution, the UN said that UN peacekeeping forces are to be sent to the island of Cyprus. And in doing so, they referred to the Cyprus government having consented to receiving the UN soldiers, when in fact there was no legitimate partnership government in place anymore. If you remember, I said the attacks took place in December 1963. As of then, there was no joint partnership government in place. Now, the resolution passed in March 1964, when there is no legitimate government of Cyprus. But the UN Security Council referred to the Cyprus government being willing to accept the troops, the UN troops. When the Turkish side objected and said there is no government of Cyprus in place, there is no government of Cyprus, the excuse given to the Turkish side was the UN Charter makes it impossible to send UN troops to any country if the receiving country's government doesn't give its consent. So yes, we know there is a problem. There is no partnership government in place, but we have to say that the government of Cyprus is prepared to accept the soldiers. Besides, they said, it's your people who are being killed, the Turkish Cypriots who are being killed. So let's not play with words. Let's send the troops to the island as early as possible so bloodshed stops. So,
but this created a legal dilemma, I think,
of
right?
course, this decision itself. This decision itself is the only cause of the continuation of the Cyprus problem to this very day, because the Greek Cypriots have secured what they always wanted, a purely Greek Cypriot state being recognized as the Republic of Cyprus. They have solved their problem.
But only this decision, Your Excellency, is sufficient enough to claim all this, just to send troops, saying that the Greek government admitted these soldiers. Is it legally, is it sufficient to claim all this?
No, it's not. It's not absolutely. But what the problem is, we are talking about the UN Security Council, the 5 permanent members. To begin with, the United Kingdom. United Kingdom, as you know, the island of Cyprus was British colony before it became an independent partnership republic in 1960. But in turning over the island to an independent partnership republic, the British secured for themselves 2 sovereign base areas on the island. 2 sovereign base areas, British sovereign base areas on the island of Cyprus to this very day. So the British are the responsible party that has led the United Nations to allow the Greek Cypriots to sit in the General Assembly as a permanent official member of the UN organization, because the British cannot support policies that will be against the interests of the Greek Cypriots, because if they did, the Greek Cypriots will start terror campaigns and say the British base is out of Cyprus. Now, the British cannot afford to endanger the future of their sovereign base areas on the island of Cyprus. They are very important to them. One is an Air Force base, the other one is a listening station, and they are absolutely crucial for British interests, these 2 sovereign base areas. And the British are the prisoners of their own sovereign base areas, because they must be very careful not to agitate the Greek Cypriots. So because of that, they allowed the Greek Cypriots to pretend to be the Republic of Cyprus on their own and sit in the UN General Assembly. The others, American, we all know the huge political strength of the Greek-American lobby in the United States. The other, France. I don't need to talk about where France is. Russia.
Yes. The France, just the minister, I want to make note. They just want to scare the Greek part, about Turkey, and then they want to sell arms to Greece. They use this, provocation, and then they benefit from selling arms or other services. They have a, this game, an old game, in Libya, in Greece, in other
in
parts.
Syria as well.
Yeah, yes. Just before you move on for the current, this coup happened during the Cold War time, where you have the Soviet Union and also the West. Who encouraged them? Is it related to the international geopolitics somehow, or more like internal local event? The Greek coup attempt.
Coup attempt is their national aspiration. They're recreating the empire of Alexander the Great, the grand ideal. What
Soviets supported them, or the West supported them? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. Obviously, the military junta staged the coup. I mean, I don't want to get into how much the Russians helped, how much the Americans helped, how much because those are all
debatable, discussable. But we know
the main issue is that the Greek nation has an aspiration to re-establish the empire of Alexander the Great, and there is one island in the Eastern Mediterranean which is of absolute importance, and they have failed to annex Cyprus to Greece, and that aspiration will continue. They failed up until now. Turkey and Turkish Cypriots have prevented them from making Cyprus a Greek island, but their determination to seek to conquer Cyprus will not come to an end. I am sure you are well aware that the Greeks are still dreaming of the day when they will take Istanbul, which they refuse to say Istanbul, they say Constantinople.
They tried 100 years ago, Your Excellency, to expel Turkey from Anatolia, Turks from Anatolia. They failed. They still want to exclude Turkey from the Mediterranean.
There was a football game between a Turkish team and a Greek team in Istanbul, and the Greek team won the game, the first leg in Istanbul. The president of the club, Greek club, said, "We have won in our own city, in Istanbul." So their dream of conquering Istanbul, just like it has never ended and will never end, is the same with their dream of conquering the island of Cyprus, which we will never, ever allow them. Cyprus will never, ever be a Greek island. Let everybody know. Cyprus will never, ever be a Greek island.
Yes.
No matter who is helping the Greeks, the British are helping the Greeks, the French are helping the Greeks, the Americans are helping the Greeks. Everybody who recognizes the Greek Cypriot state in South Cyprus as if it is the state of the whole island of Cyprus, disregarding the existence of Turkish Cypriots and our own state, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, knowingly or unknowingly, is assisting the Greek Cypriots, is assisting Greek Cypriot aspiration to turn Cyprus into a Greek island. The European Union is another institution that is doing so. As you know, they made them members of the European Union in 2004.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody is aware of the Copenhagen criteria for membership. When you apply to the European Union, the standard is, do you comply with the membership criteria called Copenhagen criteria? If you are in line with the Copenhagen criteria for membership, then your membership is dealt with. The Greek Cypriot state that applied for membership should not have been taken seriously because it was in direct opposition, in violation of the Copenhagen criteria for membership. The Copenhagen criteria for membership talks about zero problems with your neighbors. The island of Cyprus, is it an island that has zero problems with your neighbors?
Border problems.
There is an ongoing Cyprus problem. There is a border going across the island east to west. There have been UN troops on the island since 1964. And the European Union says the Greek Cypriot application for membership is a proper application, and they make them members. This is the European Union, a union that claims to cherish human rights and democracy and the rule of law and all of that. Unfortunately, European Union has proven to the Turkish Cypriots that they are not an organization that is to be trusted. The European Union is a Christian club, open to Christians, and keeping non-Christians, Muslims, out, waiting outside the door, hoping to be a member, but knowing that they never will be. This is the European Union. It's not an organization that is to be trusted.
Your Excellency, you mentioned about this Christian role, and we know in the Greek side of the island, religion is mixed with nationalism.
Absolutely.
And playing a big part in the also like not proceeding with any kind of solution because they are so nationalistic and so radical in their religious perspective, and they are dominating. I was reading the Eurobarometer, measurements on religiosity. Greek part, Europe is generally secular, and also even the Turkish Cypriots are more, secular oriented, which is fine. I mean, it is everybody's right. But the Greek side is very, very fanatic, very radical on their perception, especially when it comes to Turks and the Muslims.
Sure.
How this play out in this local and maybe also international geopolitics?
Well,
I mean, the Cyprus wise.
it's because of this religious aspect of the problem that Turkish Cypriots are being discriminated against. Unfortunately, the Islamic world must also criticize itself. Well, self-criticism is necessary here as well, because there are so many Islamic countries who should have Cyprus policies more in line with the Turkish Cypriot side as our Muslim brothers. But what do we see? All these Islamic countries enjoying excellent relations with the Greek Cypriot side and assisting them in their discrimination against the Turkish Cypriots. So
not their people, maybe the government's people are. I know the people are sympathetic for the Turkish Cypriots, Muslims. And
this weekend, I am traveling to Islamabad, Pakistan, to attend the foreign affairs ministers of Organization of Islamic Cooperation. There is going to be a meeting in Islamabad on the situation on Afghanistan. And I have attended these OIC foreign affairs ministers, meetings annually, many times in the past as well. And if you look on paper, there are excellent resolutions on the Cyprus situation passed by the OIC ministers or summit meetings. Excellent resolutions at the end of the conference. But when it comes to the implementation of those resolutions, we see nothing. So we are aware that the population, the people in these countries are very sympathetic to the Turkish Cypriot people. But the governments, unfortunately, fail to live up to the expectations of the people they represent.
Yes, I want to just mention maybe as a scholar, in Andalusia, the Christians, they kick out Muslims and they establish inquisition courts to even the Jews, not only Muslims from
Yes.
Iberian Peninsula. Also, similarly, this Greek church and the Greek nationalists, they want to expel all the Muslims, Turks or Arabs or others from the island. There is similarity in this we should mention. But let's move on to maybe more geographical part. Island is, even though it's big, but it's not too big. There are different third biggest, yeah. But there are different climates. Even like one island, one side is very green, the other side, they talk about these global warming, rain shortage, water shortage, etc. We know that the island has one of the oldest water wells in the world, but now suffering water shortages, especially. How the climate and environmental aspects of this island is now playing?
Well, we are suffering just as much as everybody else is suffering around the world. But thanks to motherland Turkey, I cannot say that we are suffering from water shortages, because as you may know, there is a pipeline laid between Anatolia and North Cyprus, undersea pipeline that brings water from Anatolia to North Cyprus.
Fresh water, yes.
Fresh water.
And, yes.
So, yes, climate change is probably the most important.
Rain. The level of rain, amount of rain is decreasing, I think, right? In all islands.
Right, but that has always been the case here. Yes, when I say always, the island is known as a green island, but for many years now, in the summer, you don't see a green Cyprus. You see a yellow Cyprus, because obviously no rain, and many years you have drought, absolutely, even in winter, almost no rain. And it's because of that water shortage that the project to bring water from Anatolia to here, undersea pipeline, was implemented. But global warming is an issue that dominates the international agenda, and it's a huge crisis. It has severe implications if left unresolved. So we are only one people globally. We are suffering. We are experiencing something that the whole world is experiencing, and we should learn how to go about preventing global warming, because it will basically mean disaster if left unresolved. It's disaster.
Is there any close to sea level lands that might be, if the sea rises, affected? Is it serious or not so much?
No. Well, the island of Cyprus sank 3 times in the past. Went under the sea 3 times in the past. I hope it doesn't sink again, but
I hope not. Yeah. Is it the sea rise, or is the land goes down?
No, the land went down. If you look at the island, the map, there is a panhandle, right?
Yes.
Go a bit east than that from the panhandle. You get into the Iskenderun Gulf.
Yes.
That's where we came from. The island.
It's like spread, broke away from.
It broke away from the Anatolian
Mass.
Iskenderun Gulf mass, and we are where we are today.
It is also the shape is similar. As for the because we are coming on to the final part of the discussion, there is a big debate on the natural gas and all these explorations and demarcations, etc. How we know Cyprus Island is the center of all these discussions. We know also the Greek side, they want to overlook, they want to ignore the Turkish Northern Cyprus rights on this, as well as Turkey's role. They consider, the whole Mediterranean is the Greek island. This is
Greek lake.
This is not fair. The big lake, yeah. Also not practical because this is like a survival issue. It's like nothing a rope on the neck of Anatolia, and in Anatolia we are also like peninsula, almost like an island.
Sure.
3 sides from. So how you see that, sir?
This hydrocarbon case is a very good example of Greek aggression and Greek obsession vis-a-vis the Turkish nation and Turkish Cypriots and Turkey mainland. Now, one thing is for sure. Any scenario that does not take into account Turkish Cypriots and mainland Turkey is bound to fail. We will not allow, Turkey and Turkish Cypriots will never allow the Greek Cypriot attempts to get away with murder and violate rights. Violate and interests of the Turkish nation, Turkish mainland, and Turkish Cypriots on the island of Cyprus. As you know, Greek Cypriots have signed contracts with foreign companies, American, Italian, unfortunately, Qatar. They are coming together with Israel, with Egypt, signing all sorts of agreements, pretending as if Turkey doesn't exist, pretending as if Turkish Cypriots have no interest, have no rights in this area. But Turkey knows exactly what it is doing. Turkey is taking all sorts of measures to counter Greek Cypriot aggression and obsession. Turkey-Libya agreement is a case in point. That is a very crucial agreement that has prevented Greek Cypriot and Greek mainland attempts to turn the Eastern Mediterranean into a Greek lake. They should be ashamed, actually, for trying to turn Turkey, the country that has the longest shoreline to the Mediterranean, to turn such a country into an insignificant actor with minimal rights and
almost no rights they want to give.
Almost no rights. So no matter what they do, we are working with the Turkish mainland. We are working with a Turkish mainland company, state company. We are authorizing Turkey to do drills and search on our behalf, on their behalf, because it's not only Turkish Cypriot interests. Obviously, this is a national case. Turkey has interests in the area as well, around the island of Cyprus. This is maritime law case, and there are enough experts in Turkey and here who know exactly what they are doing, who know exactly where the Greek Cypriots can or cannot act. And to cut a long story short, it's enough to say that all these attempts by the Greek Cypriots and Greece, assisted by foreign companies, be it American or Qatar or Italy or France or whoever, or Israel, there is no way they will be allowed to be successful to disregard the Turkish Cypriots' rights and interests, to disregard Turkish mainland rights and interests, and behave as if the Eastern Mediterranean is an area where Turkish nation has no right of say, as if we have no interest in this geography. So it will not be allowed.
Yes, Your Excellency. We know Turkey has a long shoreline and land mass in the longest, in the north, and you have Egypt maybe in the south, and you have Palestine, you have Libya, and also Lebanon and Israel and Syria. So our logic is even favors Egypt, because we want to divide according to equal distance from both sides, and you give an exception to islands. And just because the presence of a small Castadella island, or Mace Island, we say, the Greece say we cover the whole Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean Sea. This is not fair. This is not legal. This is not also internationally also defendable in a way. But Egypt began to rethink what they say, because they were the instigator or initiator of this Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum. Now they began to rethink, because Turkey's model or Turkey's formula offer them more gains, more.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If they agree with Turkey, they will have more territory for themselves. And I hope that Turkey will sort it out between Turkey and Egypt. I hope Turkey will also be able to sort it out with Israel, because Israel is also an important actor in this geography. It has reserves, quite sizable reserves. All these, the most logical way to secure the transfer of this wealth to Europe is via Turkey.
Yes, very secure, very, very short distance.
Logical.
We already have pipeline in Turkey. So just after it enters Turkey, it is quickly can reach Europe.
The EastMed project is a nonsense. The EastMed project is not going to operate. No way. No. Who is going to invest in so much investment in a project that is doubtful in its success? EastMed project is not operational. It's not financially sound.
It is very, very costly, not secure, also cause a lot of friction, and cause maybe these insurance premiums, etc., will go very high. This doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. What is important is we, as Turkish nation, we are not after securing for ourselves what we don't deserve. We are not trying to steal anything from anybody. But what we are very sensitive about is securing our own interests. We don't want others to come and steal things from the Turkish nation, as if we are their subservient, as if we are under their obedience.
Yes. Just want to add.
We are not trying to secure something that we have no right to secure, but we are not trying to violate others' rights. But what we are trying to do is prevent others from violating our rights.
Yes, we don't want anything from what you have. We just want our rights to secure. Yes, what is ours. And also geopolitically, Your Excellency, I think it is also for the benefit of everybody if the Cypriot island is shared, with multiplicity, not become only solely Greek island. It is for the benefits of all the people, Muslim people, Arabs, Turks, etc. All the Greeks, if they are shared, if we just make it only one-sided, this is gonna cause a lot of controversies, a lot of friction. Also, it might, today, if they want to revive the Roman Empire or Alexandrian Empire, they might ask Alexandria from Egypt. They say this is also an Alexander town or something, or then come to our Iskenderune, or the similar logic is very expansionist. So we cannot tolerate that. Similar to what, just to make a comparison for the maybe our audience, Israel, when they talk about these demarcations, these rights of people, they don't consider, there is Palestinian people, they also want a share from these gas reserves. And Greek side almost treat like Turks also in the same way, they don't want to recognize Turkish people's, the Cypriot Turkish people's rights in the sea, in these demarcations. They say we own this place and you have to go, etc. So this is not fair, historically, humanely, legally. Yes, go ahead.
But, if the whole world treats the Greek Cypriots as if they are the Republic of Cyprus, then obviously the Greek Cypriots see it as their right to pretend to act as if they are the Republic of Cyprus. That is why they look at the Turkish Cypriots and they say, this is not your business. This is the business of the state. The state is responsible for the hydrocarbons, wealth, and all that. We are the people who are going to decide on what to do with it. And if there is an economic wealth one day, we will give you bits and pieces from that wealth.
With this logic, they won't give it.
Sure.
With this logic they have, I don't think they will give anything.
Of course. But you see, it's not enough to criticize the Greek Cypriots for thinking like this, because the main people to be criticized are the countries that treat the Greek Cypriot side as if they are the Republic of Cyprus.
That spoil them.
Cypriots, the excuse, the belief that they are the Republic of Cyprus so they can do whatever they want.
Yes, they also blackmail European Union. They also, threaten some decisions, etc. So they are like spoiled child of
spoiled brats of the West. Yes.
Yes, unfortunately, especially European Union. And just as a final note, we reached a 1 hour period. And about the Greek economy, we know that you have very good beaches, and tourism is very much an attractive. I also visited Cyprus, northern Cyprus. It was very beautiful. Also, you invest in education. You want to mention maybe for our international audience how many universities and how you attract students from all around the world, maybe.
Yes, this is a university country. We have 22 universities. We have over 100,000 students from about 140 countries. Higher education is what we're talking about.
Yes.
It's something we pride in, but it's also an area that the Greek Cypriot authorities are trying to kill by approaching the countries where these students come from and saying, this is an area under Turkish occupation. This is, they bring to their attention UN Security Council resolutions that favor the Greek Cypriot allegations and all of that. And they are trying to kill the university higher education sector of the TRNC. Right, but up until now, we have done a miracle. As I said, we have 22 universities, and we have international students attending. They are quite happy, they are quite successful, and their diplomas, their graduation is recognized by
internationally
and all of that. But as I said, simply pointing this out is not sufficient. I also see it necessary to bring to the attention of the audience that the Greek Cypriots are not able to tolerate this academic success either. They are trying to kill the academia in North Cyprus. And this is done by a people who are supposedly members of the European Union, who are civilized, presumably, who respect human rights, who respect the rule of law and all of that. Nonsense. People yes. who have committed genocide against another people, people who are trying to kill academia for their political aspirations, cannot be civilized European Union members. Cannot be. But again, I don't criticize just the Greek Cypriots for acting like this. I criticize the European Union leadership that has accepted them as a member.
The civilized world that spoiled them.
Yeah.
I think we covered enough about it, but we of course, invite you another meeting, maybe talk about other issues. We are very glad that you come with us and share all these valuable information from the past to the present. But as I said, the island is a mixed island. It came under Muslim control very early, and it is very critical. On the one side, it looks at the north to Anatolia, to Levant region in the east, to the Suez Canal, to the south. So very critical in the Eastern Mediterranean, and it cannot be left to one Greek, especially nationalist, who disregard the presence of the Turks or other Muslims, other communities, very fanatical, also very much known. But they tolerated even the Greek. They sold the European citizenship to other countries, and there are allegations, concrete allegations for this. But anyway, this is the European Union's problem, but the aspects that affect us, we are suffering from it, and they are creating extra unnecessary tension in the Eastern Mediterranean. We can, if there is wealth, we can share it fairly and justly, and we need more dialogue and more understanding. But we know Cyprus people, Turkish Cypriots especially, suffer a lot from this persecution, this discrimination, or maybe this disregard for their presence and for their rights. And very, very happy to have you, Your Excellency. Yes, a final word. Yes, go ahead, please.
One last example of a real event that will clarify the mentality of the Greek Cypriot side. There was a huge fire in the Greek Cypriot side a few years ago, and Turkey offered to help. The response from the Greek Cypriots was the helicopters and planes who are going to come with water to pour over the fire.
To extinguish the fire, yeah.
Extinguish fire. If they are going to take the water from the south, yes, they can come. But if they're going to take the water from the north, they don't want it.
They are ready to burn, yeah.
The Greek Cypriots.
Yes, that's the very, very, very telling. They are eager to burn than to be saved by Turkish waters. I hope they change their mind, and we are very glad to have you with us in our discussion.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
continue similar meetings. I also thank the audience also for their patience, which is in the Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. We are having these discussions, and sorry that I couldn't look into the questions, but we'll have our minister one more time to respond to these ministers later
Okay,
on to these questions. Thank you very much.
I thank you for your interest. Thank you so much.
Have a nice evening. Thank you very much.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.